I've titled my talk, Imagine There Are No Slums, It's Easy If You Try. And I borrowed that title from my most favorite song, which is Imagine by John Lennon. If you haven't heard it, please listen to it. It's one of those transformational songs. And I must also acknowledge in this talk the help that I've got from my daughter. She worked with me in slums and villages for 5 years. And the data coming out of the work that we've been doing was so against the grain and revolutionary at the same time that she then went back to Cambridge and did her doctoral research to validate the data. So some of the facts that I'm going to throw at you, please be assured that that information is checked, double-checked, and triple-checked. What am I talking about? Basically, I'm talking about transforming the slums and all the villages of this country and transforming them through water and sanitation. And I'm not just talking about physical transformation. I'm talking about using water and sanitation to alleviate poverty, improve health, improve education, and improve incomes. That's the power of water. And the best way to sort of put you in the frame is I'll show you 5 places before we did the work and the same places after we had finished. As before, 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 before. And I think what I'd like you to also notice are the people, their faces, the clothes that they wear, and that level of despondency as well. And then I'll now show you these same settlements after the water and sanitation infrastructure is coming. So it's after. And the important thing here, what you can't see here, this is not just nice bit of environment. Look at the faces of the people there. Look at the clothes they wear. They are standing up with pride. So there is a hidden other change happening. And in all the other slides you'll see, people's demeanor changes. Something much more fundamental is happening. Look at the pride of this community. It's a rural community. This is all after, the same places. And that's the power of water and sanitation. So what's the issue that we are worried about? The issue that we are addressing is that how do we lift out of poverty the vast urban population living in slums and the vast rural population? That is 80% of India's population. And because I work in that area, let me also assure you that when we think that we have all this infrastructure and we've developed so much and we are progressing, that's only 20% of India's population. The 70% living in villages and the 10% of India's population living in slums is bypassed by the present development process. So how do we get there? And there are hundreds of ways of doing it. You can do it through good governance, you can do it through economic reforms, you can do it through health, education, through social activism, hundreds of things. The problem with doing hundreds of things is that nothing works. It's like taking pot shots or throwing darts. What are you left with? A lot of holes. And let me therefore show you, actually it is not difficult. 20 years of work in this sector has taught me that there are only 3 things that you need to be aware of. And if you do that, the rest falls in place. What are the 3 things? The first one is that if you want to alleviate poverty, improve health, education, everything, there is nothing cheaper or faster than infrastructure, and particularly water and sanitation infrastructure. And I'll demonstrate it. The second thing is that let us get this out of our mind that, oh, we are so poor, we don't have the resources, what can we do? This is the best that can be managed. We have huge, huge hidden wealth in this country, and that wealth lies amongst what we call the poor people. And I'll again demonstrate that. And the third one is that, and that's where I come into the picture, there is nothing fancy about engineering. Engineering is extremely simple, and you use a couple of very simple ideas, and what is not affordable can become affordable to us. And it's those three things which have made this work happen. And I'll start with the technology first. This is conventionally what is at present being done in villages and in slums. For water, you give a public hand post. And look at the hygiene conditions there. Why? Because that's the best we can afford. We don't have the money. For roads, bit of broken paving. This slide is taken 3 months after the work was implemented. You can see the whole thing is all breaking apart. For drainage, you do a nali. What's the use of this nali? Look at the condition of that nali. If you go to Mumbai and you go to Dharavi, you'll find miles and miles of this thing. What use is it? And then for sanitation, we have this wonderful solution. We don't have it. This is actually the world experts who have decided what is the most affordable and the best thing to do for sanitation. These are great minds from Washington, World Bank, and this is what they found out. This is their answer, building a public latrine to solving our sanitation problem. What a wonderful idea. And I feel that, if these great minds, and if this is the best that they can come up with, and if they think it's such a wonderful idea, my suggestion would be that I think they should actually build one in the White House first. And then and then if the British feel that they're left behind, then perhaps Downing Street next. All right? But we won't have this rubbish here. Now, it's very easy to be jingoistic about this thing, but how do we get over this? How do we, in the same cost, do something different? And the answer is in science and nature. This is what we do. We have full-fledged, total network of infrastructure, which is house-to-house water, house-to-house sanitation, underground drainage, no open storm drainage, power, street light, landscaping, and solid waste management as well. And how do you manage all that at cost less than hand pumps and public latrines? Technology. Very, very simple. Once you understand that water flows from high to low, that's all you need to understand. And in all the expertise that we built up, sometimes we forget the simplest thing. Let me give you an example. If you look at the top box, this is conventionally what happens in our city. I've seen this a lot in Mumbai. You have an undulating landscape. The roads follow that. And so you get waterlogging. So to get rid of it, you have to put a storm drain. Can you see that? Storm drainage constitutes 20% of our urban infrastructure cost. And then the sewerage, which is the red line, also as it comes down, you get this sort of local hump, and the sewerage becomes so deep and so expensive, so you put pumping stations. But that's not cheap either, and then you have recurring power bills. Now, if you take the same profile, and if you look at the bottom box, just by playing with the lie of the land, sinking your road below the ground, and always having it sloping down, so that the road is an extension of the river structure that all the cities have, you find you don't need storm drainage. Rainwater will just flow on the road margins and get right to the river. And the sewerage is always running parallel to the ground. And you may ask me that, well, that's a bit lucky, but do all cities have natural drainage? And the answer is yes. Because if they didn't, a village would not grow to a town, and a town would not grow to a city because it would have drowned in its own waste. So next stage. Now using that kind of a solution, you can see here one street in slum in summer and in monsoon, and the street itself is the drain channel, not open gutters. And I'll show you a slum settlement. This is before, this is during, and basically you can see that it's not the hard infrastructure which is the magic, it's just cutting the road little below the ground and getting it to slope continuously so that everything runs parallel to the ground, it's not deep and it's not expensive. And it still looks shabby. You just put a bit of services in there, surface the road, landscaping, and come back 6 months later. And that's what it changes to. Yeah? This is real engineering. And I'm coming to my second point now, which is the huge wealth we have in the country. Look at this slide and then go back one slide. Can you see the change which has happened in housing? Just over 6 months, the housing has improved. Now in this project, the money came as aid from British government. The cost of doing this total infrastructure was 6,000 rupees a family. When we looked at the changes in housing, we went back and we found out that the people had invested on average 75,000 rupees per family in improving the housing. And the next question therefore is that if people can invest 75,000 rupees, why are you begging for 6,000 rupees to get the whole thing started in the first place per family? And that's where the next piece of work started. And also, do you imagine something? If every poor family in India has potential of finding from nowhere 75,000 rupees, and we've seen it in huge number of works that we've done, that represents a hidden wealth in this country of 1.5 million crores. Why aren't we tapping it? Shouldn't we be looking at our economics in a different way? And so with all our work subsequent to that first project in Indore 20 years ago, we shun aid. If someone offers us aid, we said, very nice, lovely, thank you very much, but no thanks. And we set up just to reduce the burden a little bit, because to get initially people to invest 6,000, 10,000 rupees in infrastructure, people are very reluctant. We set up this kind of a partnership where government, community and businesses get together with 1/3 partnership each. And that's how we moved from Indore to Baroda and to Ahmedabad. And this is Ahmedabad before, during, while the infrastructure is getting laid, sewerage and all those things, and after. Again, that massive change in housing. And just to give you an idea, in Ahmedabad, the government had spent about 5,900 rupees, that's the green bar, on infrastructure. The private sector, corporates had matched it. But look at the investment, the matching investment that the people made themselves, 76,000 rupees average per family. That's 13 times the initial investment made by the government. Why can't we think of such catalytic methods of changing this country? And another example of what this massive multiplier is, a house before, same house after. Right? And then my last point, that there is nothing cheaper or faster or better than water and sanitation infrastructure to alleviate poverty, improve health, education and incomes. This is talking about health, different aspects of health. The blue bars in each one of them are the conditions before we started working in these slums. High infant mortality rate, high monthly medical expenditure, and a huge number of days lost to illnesses. There's lost income as well. The red bars show the same places after water and sanitation went in. Look at the huge reduction in infant mortality. What was done with water and sanitation in 3 years, it has taken this country 60 years of independence to achieve those kind of changes. And water and sanitation has done it in 3 years. And then the orange bar, because someone may argue with us saying that, well, natural prosperity has probably done all those things, it's not your work. So we always have controlled slums and controlled villages where no work is undertaken, but there are other interventions like health, education, all kinds of things. And there you find that, in fact, there are no improvements. That's the orange bar. And so I ask you this question again. If the government has spent 6,000 rupees per family once only in health, Will you start getting those kind of changes? But water and sanitation has done it. Education. Blue bar before, red bar after, and yellow is the controlled settlements. You can see as soon as water and sanitation has gone in, percentage of children attending schools has shot up. 41% rising to 72%. In the entire independent India, from the day we became independent to today, we have not managed to get that kind of an increase in literacy rate in this country, and water and sanitation is doing it. And look at what's happening before and after in terms of private school. A lot of slum girls and villagers, when the education system is not coping, are sending their children to private school. Once you become prosperous, you can overcome the deficiencies. Same question again. If you had invested 6,000 rupee per family, if the government had invested 6,000 rupee per family in education, would you get these kind of results? But water and sanitation has done it. And the last point, monthly incomes. Before water and sanitation went in, 3,500 rupees per family was a monthly income. After water and sanitation went in, it has shot up by almost 70%. In the controlled settlements, the actual income has gone down. The figures rise, but if you take into account inflation, the actual prosperity of the country in the poor parts, in the villages, in the slums is actually going down. Would a one-time investment of 6,000 rupee in employment generation by the government produce 70% increase in the national income? So the claim that I'm making has some basis and some foundation. And there's something that you can't define or measure, and that's dignity. That you get in the bargain for nothing. And the journey so far, we worked in 200 settlements and pulled 500,000 people out of poverty. That's what I have. Yeah. Why have we decided that we are poor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Parikh. Please wait. I want to ask you, how did you even get into this line of work?
I'm an engineer. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Yes, but there's plenty of
I'll tell you, there was something else as well. And that was anger. We have rotten governance in this country. We have deep corruption in this country. We have third-class politicians in this country. And it makes you so angry. And there are two ways of dealing with anger. One is that it burns you up. The other one is to say that you'll do things and make a change happen in spite of all your rascals.
What do you think about the current state of education? I mean, every year we are churning out several thousands of engineers. In fact, India is actually very famous for the fact that we are able to churn out such a large number of engineers. But where do you feel that education is actually sort of failing us in ways?
It's not failing us. I think it's the wrong clear direction. Let me tell you, all this work is not done by me personally. I have a huge number of engineers working with me. Most of them actually come from villages. And the skills that these young people show, amazing. I mean, I was looking at this particular thing that you've organized. I don't have the courage to put something like this together and find the resources. I don't think we have a problem. We don't have a problem.
We're in good hands.
Yes.
What's your advice to budding engineers? So they're all going to now graduate, go on, and hopefully do things like this. What advice would you give to young people?
My advice would be that there is much more meaningful thing you can do here in this country. You don't have to go to the United States. It will pay much more. I don't believe in charity. I don't believe in charity. And I can tell you that I make a reasonable living out of what I'm doing. And much more than that. If you work in this kind of arena, science is so exciting. It's exciting.
Thank you so much. It really inspires